Nyatimwa, welcome to this ordinary council meeting on the 30th of June. I am attending today's OCM remotely. However, due to the instability of my internet connection and the practicality of not being in the room, I'm unable to chair the meeting this afternoon. In accordance with the governance rules, I will ask the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Myra Murray, to take the chair for this meeting. Thank you all for your understanding. Cheers.
Thank you, Councillor Lockett, and we hope you're somewhere warmer than we are. And thanks for joining us. I would like to note that today's meeting is being live streamed and can be viewed by the general public via Council's Facebook page and later uploaded to Council's website. By participating in and addressing those present at the meeting, you consent to any information you disclose, including any personal information or sensitive information, being recorded and later uploaded to Council's website. I will now read our opening statement. As councillors, we recognise the responsibilities we carry and are guided by the values of service, respect and integrity. Good decision-making requires transparency, accountability and behaviours that uphold the trust placed in us as elected representatives of the community we serve. I'll now ask Councillor Ryan to read our acknowledgement of country.
Through you, Chair, thank you. We acknowledge the Karay-Warong people as traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay our respects to their elders past and present. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here in the gallery and watching on the live stream.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Do we have any apologies for today's meeting?
Sure.
No apologies. Any declarations of interest from officers or councillors? None of those. I will now move on to confirmation of minutes of the ordinary and confidential council meetings held on the 26th of May 2026. Do any councillors have any questions on the minutes of those meetings? No? Would anyone wish to move the officer recommendation? Councillor Ryan. Seconded, Councillor Foster, thank you. Councillor Ryan, did you want to speak?
Nothing further, just a procedural matter. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Foster?
No, thank you, Chair.
Would any other councillors like to speak for or against? No, I'll pop that to the vote. All in favour? Thank you. 7 nil. Apologies, councillors. We also have no public participants registered for today's meeting. I've got to let that be known. Moving on to our officer reports, item 2.1, budget submissions. I'll ask Director of Corporate and Community, Ms Robinson, to introduce this report.
Thank you. Councillors, this report summarises the submissions received on the draft budget for 2026-27. Council endorsed the draft budget for public exhibition on the 19th of May and invited community feedback. The consultation period closed on the 9th of June and Council received 13 written submissions. These covered a range of funding requests, projects and budget priorities. Under Section 94 of the Local Government Act, Council must consider those submissions before adopting the budget. So this report presents the submissions for Council consideration and determination.
Thank you, Ms Robinson. Any questions on this item, councillors?
Yes, thank you,
Yes, Councillor.
Deputy Mayor. I just have a question for Ms Robinson. Just a moment. In the preamble to the budget, there's a reference to the loan drawdown for the Gibb Street Bridge, which is 1.5 million in 20. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Sorry, wrong item. It's the next item.
Next item?
Yep,
All good. Any questions on item 2.1?
One is Madam Mayor, to Mr. Arnott, in relation to the officer's comments with Neil Allen and the roads and the asset spending, it says here, and I'll read it, current day values and while underfunding does increase long-term costs and risks, the extent of impact described is not supported by current modelling. So if on one hand there is an impact, how can the modelling say it's not supported?
Thank you, Chair, and through you, and thank you for the question. Could you just direct me to the
Page 33
Thank you.
It's okay if you take it on notice, because from today forward, I hope that we'll have a more in-depth look at the budgets, etc., in our long-term financial plan, because this will be tied in with other assets and other, I suppose, areas of the Shire that we need to look at going forward. Can't keep going backwards.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Thank you, and just found the right spot to respond. Around that commentary in response to the submission, whilst the submission is largely correct that there is an asset renewal gap, the extent of impact was greater in that submission than what exists. So there was also 110% renewal target or a compounding effect of not meeting that renewal demand. And whilst there is definitely an impact in not meeting renewal requirements, it's a little bit more complex and not quite to the extent that was detailed in the submission. But agree that through the state of the assets report and through analysing financial plan, we can better plan for future to minimise or avoid that effect.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, councillors? Do I have a mover for this officer recommendation? Okay, Councillor Ryan, and a seconder?
Second. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Ryan as mover of this recommendation.
Through you, Chair. I just would like to applaud the community members for submitting and presenting budget submissions to us during this period. I know it's quite a daunting process to present to council. It's not everyone's cup of tea to be able to do that. So, yeah, well done to those that have done so during this period. And we've seen many recent efforts of community advocacy that support council's ability to support our communities. So we ask our community to please keep that up.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Taylor, seconder.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I would just like to follow up on Councillor Ryan's comments and say that when the draft budget goes out, it is good to have community ratepayers to look through it and bring submissions. It does help us to understand how we're going with our drafted budget. So again, thank you to everyone who did that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Would any other councillors like to speak for or against the motion? I will put that one to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. So, move on to item 2.2, our budget 26-27, and to Director Corporate and Community, Ms Robinson, over to you to introduce.
Thank you, councillors. This is the adoption of the 26-27 budget. It's following community consultation and consideration of the submissions. The budget's been developed in line with the Local Government Act and reflects council's strategic priorities, balancing financial sustainability with continued investment in services and infrastructure. The draft budget delivers an operating surplus of $780,000 and a $28.8 million capital works program. It also includes $22.9 million directed to our asset renewal, which is critical for maintaining our asset base. The largest area of investment continues to be roads and bridges at $16.3 million. This reflects both community expectation and the importance of maintaining our network. I'll leave it there and over to you. Thanks,
Ms Robinson. Do any councillors have any questions? I believe
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, I do. So just with regard to the preamble where it's mentioned that we will be taking advantage of a loan facility, the drawdown for the Gipp Street Bridge, which will be 1.5 million in 2026-27 and 1 million in the 27-28 financial year. I just would like to know where in the budget is the servicing of the loan documented, and also so it's the interest, but also the principal repayments.
Thank you, Councillor. A good question. So you can find that information page 102 of the budget document. So that's under the statement of cash flow, and it's shown where it says probably halfway down the page there, or towards the bottom of the page, it says cash flows from financing activities. In regards to your broader question, the loan is based on a 5-year term. So council is aiming to pay that loan back over 5 years. There is minimal shown in the next year, as we only will be receiving those that loan late in the piece, and that will be reflected more broadly the following financial year.
Thank you.
Questions, councillors?
Yeah, one thing you, Mayor. On page 75, under major projects, the 16.3 million is made up of, if I'm correct, 8.9 million rehabilitation, bridge 3.1, resealing 2.2, resheeting 1, drainage 0.17. And that all adds up to 16.3. Is that how we work the total out? Thank you. Should work the total out because I've got a different total. Anyway, no, that's the only question I have today. I think I'll wait till we get a move in a second to add a little bit in to see if we can get support to add some spare money into the roads budget.
Thank you, Councillor Dukas. Councillor
Thank
Taylor.
you through you, Deputy Mayor. Following on from, because I did have a question in that part of the budget as well. So I am interested in the infrastructure funding and especially the road funding. Jim pointed to the 1.8 million in the road rehab, which has broken into renewal of 7,618,000 and the upgrade of 1,344,000, 1.344 million. And also the reseals of 2.245 million. So I just wanted to confirm that the renewal funding of the 7.618 million is for 15.45 kilometres of road, and that the reseal funding, so that's the 2.245 million, will cover about 90 kilometres of road. We're with our over 1,600 kilometres of road network, we should actually be reselling about 120 kilometres per annum. Just trying to get at where our gap is in our funding for our road renewal program.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Thank you, and it's a very good question. In regard to overall asset renewal funding, we do have a gap, and we understand that that's a serious challenge to councils, across Australia, and it's certainly one that mine are facing. If we look in particular at roads, we're looking at a gap of around about $1.5 million in the next financial year. We do try to bridge that through accessing funding opportunities and other means. However, it is important that we try to close that gap. And as we touched on earlier, the long-term financial plan does align to our asset plans. However, it also recognises a gap in that. So there's certainly some work to be done, and it's a challenge that's not going to be easily overcome. In terms of road rehabilitation and road resealing, the earlier we can intervene for road renewal, the better and the lower cost. And you're absolutely correct around road resealing being a critical way of renewing our road network. In the coming financial year, we expect to press towards that 100 to 120 kilometres of roads resealed with that budget allocated. However, in the previous years, we've been at somewhere between 80 to 105 kilometres. So we need to strive towards that number, and additional funding would be most welcome.
Thank you. Questions, councillors? Councillor Ryan.
Through you, Chair. Since the draft budget was released for public consultation, council expecting to receive $456,000 of a financial assistance grant. I'd just like to know the impact of this grant on the 2026-27 budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the question. For the additional 456,000 has been indicated through the financial assistance grant program. That's not confirmed in writing as yet, but should council receive that money, that will come in as a variation to the budget, and that will be for councils to determine how we spend that additional money. Yeah, Ms. Robinson.
Sorry, through you, Chair. Another question not related to that. There is a part in the budget that outlines the Gardens Caravan Park Port Fairy amenities block project is estimated to be $800,000. Just like a little bit further information on that amount, please, Ms. McNamara.
Deputy Mayor, thank you for the question, Councillor Ryan. We have done some concept plans as a starting point to give a bit of an indication or ballpark figure on what the upgrade to the amenities block might be. The next step is to do detailed design to actually get the costs that will be realised through the upgrade. It's important that we bring that into council once that's completed, so councillors can have a bit of an overview of what you get for that cost and what the amenities upgrade looks like.
If there are no further questions, councillors, I ask the mover for this recommendation. I'd like to move our budget. Councillor Foster, thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Councillor Dukas?
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Foster as mover of this motion.
Thank you, Chair. So I think as with every budget, this time every year, we come together and acknowledge that there have been some difficult decisions, plenty of robust discussion and lots of competing priorities. I think we all agree no budget can fund everything that everyone would like to see, and I don't think any of us think this is a perfect budget. However, it does represent a responsible and I think very considered plan that balances the needs of what is a very geographically large and diverse shire. And it balances that with our obligation to remain financially sustainable. So I really appreciate the fact that it invests in the services that many of our residents rely on every day, and those include our libraries and services for some of our most vulnerable. I'm particularly pleased on a personal level to see a small allocation to develop a positive ageing strategy for our shire to meet the ongoing needs of our ageing population. But this budget also maintains and renews important community assets such as roads, which we've been talking about. And we're doing that at levels that far outstrip those of our neighbours and other similar sized shires. I think this budget positions our council to delivering for our community, not just for the year ahead, but well into the future. And would like to point out that throughout the entire process, we've heard from our community at multiple points, and we've weighed up many competing demands on our increasingly limited resources. And that's what good governance requires of us. So ultimately, this budget reflects our commitment to responsible stewardship of public funds. And for these reasons, I'll be supporting the adoption of our 2026-27 budget. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Foster, Councillor Dukas.
Yeah, thank you. Madam Mayor, can I add at this point in time an addition
Double check.
or an amendment?
If you'd like to propose an amendment.
Yep, that we use 400 out of the 457, 50, whatever it is, for roads, and that out of the capital reserve of 500, that we use 400 of that as well to put it into the roads. So that'll help alleviate the 1.3 million shortfall. It won't cover it, but it'll help.
Councillor Dukas, can I just clarify as an amendment, the officer recommendation would read as it does currently with that additional...
With those two additional sums.
The federal assistance, the grant.
if we get it, of course.
To get it, and so please pull me up if I do this incorrectly, but I do need to ask that the mover accept this amendment.
I just don't know exactly. I haven't had time to process this, Councillor Dukas. I'm not quite sure of the ramifications of doing that, if we're going to be leaving ourselves short in some area. So if we talked about it earlier, I might understand what you mean.
Well, we yet to receive it, but we've been
Yes.
told that we're going to get an extra 456. Is that the exact amount? So that hasn't been allocated anywhere.
Correct.
So what I'm doing now is allocating 400 of that into the roads. And the 500 we set aside for fuel, to take a portion of that and allocate that to the roads. Because if we keep going the way we're going with the road funding, as Mr. Arnott said, we'll get that far behind, we'll never catch up. It'll be like the state government. We'll never catch up. So I just thought to take a bit of pressure off, there's an opportunity here to ease that bit of pain.
So Councillor Foster, as mover of the motion, are you in support of the?
As a mover, I'm actually not supportive of that amendment, just because I think it locks us into decisions that haven't been properly considered. I understand the intent, but I think as a mover of the motion, I can't accept that particular amendment at this point.
Because, sorry,
Councillors, I'm just going to double check with governance for a moment, just for procedural.
Just to pause, sorry, through you, Chair, just to pause for a minute on the discussion. So just under our governance rules, with an amendment, and it may have been something unintended here, but our governance rules state that any councillor can put forward an amendment other than the mover or the seconder. Now, so Councillor Dukas, I think, may or may not have intended to second it, but I think in order for this conversation to occur, we need a mover and a seconder that is not someone intending to change or put forward an amended motion.
Mm-hmm.
So on that count, with in good faith, is there an opportunity for a second councillor to second the original motion?
Would another councillor like to second the original motion?
Councillor
Thank
Ryan.
you, Councillor Ryan.
So with that, so now Councillor Foster is the mover, Councillor Ryan is the seconder.
Yep.
So now the process here is Councillor Dukas is putting forward an amended motion for which the mover and the seconder would need to accept.
Thank you. So the mover is not accepting of the amendment. Seconder?
Through you, Chair, also not accepting. I think there's been no time to consider this alternate option. And I think this can be done through variations into the budget following due course in workshop discussions and further consideration and information from our officers.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. It is my understanding that the amendment now becomes formal amendment for debate, and we will now.
No.
The amendment's accepted.
yeah,
Yes,
Not
that's right. So we were, through you, Chair, we
Return
now
to the
revert
original
motion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
The debate continues.
Okay, so we've heard from the mover and seconder. We're
Not this.
Second.
not the seconder. Thank you, Councillor Ryan. We'll get there. Bear with us, team.
Chair, doing wonderful.
Thank you.
I'll reserve myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Would any councillor wish to speak for or against the original officer recommendation? Councillor Ross.
Yeah, I'll support the budget this year because I did last year. Although I'm still not happy, I think we've got to sit down and revisit the 10-year plan and gain some more efficiencies somewhere.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Lockett.
Thank you, Deputy, through you. Yeah, I support the motion, and I agree with Councillor Ducas's suggestion, but I think it's kind of at the 12th hour, and our initial kind of agreements regarding setting aside a surplus was, due to the fuel costs, and I don't know how much we can trust the current situation in that, and obviously we have monthly financial reports, which we can, adjust if we need to. But, I'm really happy to move this budget. I think big congratulations to the officers and to council team and the exec, and also I'd say this is the community's budget, not just our budget. We've heard from the community and we've, included where we can, community's feedback. It's a great spread of, asset renewal, but also we've got some fantastic projects coming up with the Gibb Street Bridge renewal and the Koroit Pump Track, to name a few. But I think it's a significant investment in our asset renewal, but a good spread across the Shire. Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you, Councillor Pocket. Any other councillor? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, I can't support the adoption of the budget. I will start by acknowledging that there is a lot of work that's gone into preparing it. And I also do recognise the difficulty, the balancing act that councils have to do with rising costs and community expectations and the limited revenue. But as with Councillor Dukas, I am particularly concerned about the real renewal gap, and especially for our roads and the long-term financial risks that creates. Moyne has approximately 1,630 kilometres of sealed roads on a resealing cycle of around 14 years, and that requires, as mentioned earlier in my question to Mr Arnott, 120 kilometres of resealing per year to maintain the network. We're currently about 30 kilometres a year beneath that. A detailed submission was received on the draft budget, which highlighted the problem, in which the submitter references the Road Infrastructure Asset Management Plan of 2025, noting that the current budget funds only 89% of the forecast operations, maintenance and renewal costs over 10 years, which creates an average annual shortfall of approximately 2.55 million for road assets. The problem is that this gap doesn't stay static but compounds. Roads that are not maintained deteriorate faster, thus shifting work from relatively affordable resealing to far more expensive rehabilitation or full reconstruction. And this is not just theoretical. The recent community satisfaction survey showed road condition is a top priority for residents. 61% of respondents nominated potholes on sealed roads as the highest priority for improvement, with poor surface condition also receiving strong concern. Shoulders, safety, drainage and vegetation management were further issues raised. That was feedback from 400 community members, which makes it quite clear that residents feel the impact of inadequate renewal funding every day. And because of those reasons, I can't support the adoption of the budget.
Councillor Taylor. Any other councillor like to speak for or against?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll speak against the budget along the same lines as Councillor Taylor. I'd like to thank Mr Arnott and Ms Robinson for all the assistance they've given me. But going forward, and in consideration of one that really does bug me, one item, is the fact that we've got in our long-term financial plan one more person every year. Where we come to that decision, I don't know. That is going backwards in my opinion. I'm not saying we should put people off, but we don't need to put one person on every year without some sort of a position for them to have. So that does bug me. And as Councillor Taylor said, the issue with the roads, I hope they don't hold it against me, but going forward, we need to look at our long-term financial plan and reassess it probably every year, considering the situation we're in. And the situation with the roads, there was an opportunity only 5 minutes ago to put a little bit more money in. I know some people say it was a bit quick, but I mean, if you can't think on your feet, then don't get up, my theory. Anyway, that being what it is, we need to assess where we're going. And if we don't look at our roads and especially the seal roads, we'll end up like the Victorian roads. And we've seen what the Labor government's done to our roads. You don't want to go down that path. So due respect to the two people that have helped me the most, I will vote against the budget, but still I thank them for the work they've done. They've really helped me a lot.
Thank you, Councillor Dukas. I will speak for the budget, and similarly, thank you to the officers and the councillors. This is such a huge thing that we need to pull together every year, and it's such an important document. I'm not opposed to Councillor Dukas's suggestions. I think it's quite a good suggestion to maybe address some of that asset renewal gap that we have, and I look forward to exploring those further through variations in the future. But yeah, I'm happy to speak to this one. Councillor Ryan, you've reserved your right.
Through you, Chair, thank you. I'm voting for this motion and the 2026-27 budget because it is a considered and modest one. I thank the officers for the tireless work they have done to get it to this point. It's no mean feat, so thank you very much. There's been a lot of talk about roads and assets, renewal and new. Drawing comparisons to our neighbouring councils and their renewal and upgrade rates on assets, we are absolutely kicking goals. And I can't speak highly enough to the work that our officers do in that regard, nor the money that we've been already. I would also like to note the total spend on our roads and bridges is already over $16 million every financial year. That means roads and bridges make up 56 cents of every capital works dollar, which is more than 4 times the next largest budget category. Yes, our roads and bridges need attention. We're not doing, but we are doing all that we can within our means without seeking high rates from our residents. And we know that that's as important to our residents. They don't want to be paying higher rates. We are maintaining community love programs and services, which is no mean feat considering significant cost increases that we are all experiencing as a council and as individuals. We are also looking at new community assets which are exciting for our Moyne community. The pump track, for example, in Koroit. This budget reflects extensive community consultation and considered responses to submissions. So I'd also like to thank our community for their consultation. And that is why I'm seconding this motion. Thank you,
Councillor Ryan. Councillor Foster is next.
Thank you, Chair. Within the local government sector, I think Moyne is in a pretty enviable position in comparative terms. I know a lot of other similar sized shires would love to be where we are. I do hear and acknowledge the concerns about our road network. We have, I think, it's about 4 ratepayers for every kilometre of road that we have to maintain. That number in the city would be in the hundreds of thousands, I think, per kilometre of road. However, our portfolios of assets, infrastructure and services are vast. The roads funding shortfall is always going to be an ongoing issue for us all, and we're going to have to engage very meaningfully with other tiers of government to support us on this. But let's not forget the breadth of other work this council does that our community expects us to deliver for and on their behalf. And with that said, I'm happy to put the motion, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Councillors, we will now vote. Those in favour for the motion? Councillors Ryan, Foster, Ross, Lockett, Murray, and those against? Councillor Dukas and Taylor. Motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Come to item 2.3, declaration of rates and charges 2026 to 2027. Director of Corporate and Community, Ms. Robinson, to introduce.
Thank you, councillors. This report formally declares the rates and charges for 26-27. The proposed declaration complies with the Local Government Act and the Victorian Government's Fair Go rate system and the financial settings established through the adopted budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Councillors, any questions for Ms. Ivan? Councillor Ryan.
Through you, Chair, as I spoke to the last motion, rates is what everyone is interested in and they're not going up too much. So council's very aware of that. Ms. Robinson, I just wanted to know what hardship or payment plan provisions are available to ratepayers if they are struggling or in need of some extra support in their rate payments. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question. Council has a range of different payment options available to our ratepayers. So we have flexible payment plans that can be negotiated on an individual needs basis. We offer a broad range of payment terms as well, so they can be paid weekly, fortnightly, monthly. You don't have to pay by instalment. You can pay regularly as you go. But I would suggest to anyone that's experiencing difficulties in paying their rates that they reach out to the team and see how we can work with them to assist in making those payments.
So any further questions, councillors? No? I will now call for a mover of this motion. I'd like to move the officer recommendation. Councillor Ryan, thank you. And a seconder. Councillor Foster, thank you. Councillor Ryan as mover.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Again, a requirement as part of this budget process. We do our best to support everyone in our community, and council can't provide the services we do without the rates that our community pays. So, yeah, happy to move this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Foster as seconder.
Nothing further to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Would any councillor like to speak for or against the motion?
I'll speak for. I'd just like to note that the rural community are putting $11 million out of that 18.6. So we're pulling our fair share, even though we've got a lot of roads to maintain. We do put in, and we create a lot of wealth for the country. For that, thank you.
Councillor Ross and Councillor Ryan.
Nothing further.
Further, thank you, councillors. I'll put this motion to the vote. Those in favour for the motion? Thank you. 7-0, motion is carried. On to item 2.4, Community Satisfaction Survey, 2026 Research Report. Once again, I return to Director of Corporate and Community, Ms Robinson, to introduce this one.
Thank you. Councillors, this report presents the results of the 2026 Moyne Shire Council Community Satisfaction Survey and seeks Council's endorsement to publish the results on Council's website. The report presents positive results for Council, and it shows that community perceptions of Moyne remain relatively stable. A number of the measures have improved since last year. Several service areas continue to perform very strongly, and in many areas we're tracking above comparable councils and close to above the state averages. Our overall council performance score is 56, which reduced very slightly from the previous year, but remains above the large rural and the close to the Shire average. We achieved high scores in waste management, appearance of public areas, community events and cultural activities, and elderly support services.
Thank you, Ms Robinson. Any questions, councillors, on community satisfaction? Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Chair. Ms Robinson, what happens with these results? What do we do internally with them? How do we use these to inform what happens next?
Thank you. It's a really good question. So from an internal perspective, we will take these results back to our full leadership team and our full team, and we will look at both the areas that we have room for improvement as well as those that we're doing well. We aim to continue to do well in those areas and look for other improvements that we can make. But in the areas where there is, a clearer room for improvement, we'll look at strategies we can put into place to better meet the needs of our community. Right, thank you.
Any other questions on this one, councillors? No. We'll now ask for a mover for the officer recommendation. Councillor Ryan, thank you. Anyone wish to second? Councillor Ross, thank you. Councillor Ryan as mover.
Through you, Chair, thank you. I just want to note that this is a routine survey that we undertake every year, but it is and does hold significant weight in work that council do across the board. And as Ms Robinson said, it will factor into our next year's priorities. I also really would like to highlight the genuine year-on-year improvement in scores on road condition. And condition of sealed local roads is up 8 points and maintenance of unsealed roads is up 4 points. So we are doing an incredible job in maintaining our roads. I also want to note that it's I really like the fact that this will all be public, or it is public, and we try to be as transparent and as open as we can as a council, and this absolutely concerns that for our community.
Thank you. Ryan, Councillor Ross is seconder.
Oh yeah, pretty hard to read the fish. 6, still 44 points to get to 100, so that's what I'd like to see.
Same for that.
So we've got work to do.
Thank you, Ross. Would any other councillor like to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Foster?
I'll speak for the motion. Thank you, Chair. I think we could congratulate ourselves for the improvement, and I do thank our staff and officers for the work they've done to support these results. But the buck ultimately stops with us as councillors, and I think our community expects us to get on with the job, as Councillor Ross said. So what truly matters now is what we do next. So let's use this to inspire us to do better, to be better, and march towards 100% satisfaction if we can.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. No one else wish to speak for or against? I'll return to Councillor Ryan as a mover. Nothing further, and I will put this officer recommendation to the vote. All those for the motion? Thank you. That's 7-0 carried. Item 2.5, our monthly finance report for May 2026. Again, over to Director of Corporate Community, Ms. Robinson.
Thank you. This report, councillors, provides you with a snapshot of our organisational financial performance for 31st of May this year. And this forms part of our regular financial oversight and responsibilities.
Ms. Robinson, would any councillors have any questions on our May monthly financial? Councillor Ryan.
Through you, Chair, I'm talking a lot today. Question for Ms. Robinson. Our cash and investments have increased on last year. Given that increase, does council have any plan to use these additional funds whilst noting some large projects that we do have ahead of us in the near future, including the Gibb Street Bridge?
Yes, thank you. So the cash and investment balances do fluctuate month to month. And often can be determined around the timing of cash coming in. For that reason, the cash on hand can't be assessed in isolation. And we probably need to look at it more broadly across a year and in consideration of our budget.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors?
Yes, Councillor Foster. Thank you, Chair. Ms. Robinson, on page 266, on the progress on key indicators table, I just note the rates outstanding year to date are significantly higher than what we budgeted for. Ought we be worried or concerned?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you for your question. I do note that this report is as at the 31st of May. The final rates instalment is due on the 31st of May. So there will be rate payments that are yet to be received when this was developed. We do have people that pay up until the end of the financial year, or payments that come in a little bit later. That's part of our finance plans with our ratepayers as well, in assisting them to pay. Although I will acknowledge that it is higher than we had anticipated, and we have some work to do in looking to reduce that debt.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? I will call for a mover of the officer recommendation. Would anyone like to move this one? Thank you, Councillor Ross. And a seconder? To second this, Councillor Foster. Thank you. Councillor Ross as mover of the motion.
Yeah, it's always a very comprehensive report. I'd like to see the cash in the bank. I'm too concerned with that. You can spend it somewhere on the line. Nothing else.
Councillor Ross. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Chair. It's obviously a snapshot as at May. So I think the year-end figures are the ones we're all probably hanging out to see and to see how we performed, but happy to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Would any councillor like to speak for or against the motion? No. Councillor Ross, return to you as the mover. Nothing further. I'll put this item to the vote. All those for the motion. And 7-0, motion carried. Thank you. On to item 3.6, Aquatics Facilities Strategy. Over to Director of Mr. Arnott.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, through you. Firstly, I do need to make note that on page 281 of the meeting agenda, there's a note that indicates a confidential attachment. None of the attachments were confidential, and just wanted to note this is an administrative error. The Aquatic Facility Strategy 2026 to 36 has been developed to give council a clear evidence-based framework for the future planning, management and investment in aquatic facilities across the Shire. The work has been informed by 2 rounds of community consultation, condition and demand information, and consideration of the role aquatic facilities play in community health and wellbeing. Provides a 10-year outlook and includes a staged implementation plan to guide future decisions on service levels, investment and renewal across the portfolio. Recommendation. Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arnott. Are there any questions, councillors? Councillor Ross.
The future investment and the 10-year, if you've got any figures on where that would setting 10 years, not only future investment but running costs as well, how that would affect the budget.
Through Deputy Mayor, thank you, and thank you for the question. Overall, the strategy provides estimates of operating costs of renewal demand and considers the Port Fairy pool. It's worth noting that at the time of this strategy being developed, it was unknown as to the future of the current facility, and that is quite evident all the way through. However, it indicates $7.7 million that council will need to spend over the next few years, combined with operating costs, renewal demand. Out of that, there's $1.23 million that's indicated as required for renewal of the 3 outdoor pools over that 10-year period, broken down into annual requirements, which will assist with long-term financial planning. Thank you.
Any questions, councillors?
Oh, thank you.
Councillor Sabre.
Just Mr. Arnott, just regarding some data within the report or strategy around Port Fairy, previously Belfast Aquatics, and the annual visits at 69,162. I'm just wondering if you have any information on where that figure was derived from, given it seems to be contrary to some information we received last year at one of our workshops about memberships and visitations.
Thank you. Through the Deputy Mayor. The information source, particularly for the Port Fairy pool, was gathered, and that statistic in particular was gathered through previous year annual reports, which are publicly available. So, whilst that's quite difficult to verify, that's the only basis to which we could develop a report. Similarly for our other facilities, that was on attendance record kept at each site.
Okay, thank you. Any question about that, please? If there are no further questions, I will ask if anyone would wish to move the officer recommendation. Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move a motion that differs slightly from the recommendation. Would you like me to read that? Thank you. Point 1, that council notes the community engagement and stakeholder consultation undertaken in the development of the Aquatics Facility Strategy 2026 to 2036. Point 2, adopts the Aquatics Facilities Strategy 2026 to 2036. Point 3, commits to allocating $80,000 in the 26-27 council budget to commission the feasibility study and business case identified as an immediate priority under recommendation 1, long-term pool provision, which is pathway B, or a new indoor aquatic facility in Moynshire. And point 4, requests officers investigate and pursue any available grant funding opportunities to offset the cost of the feasibility study and associated business case.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Do I have a second up for that? So Ryan, I invite Councillor Foster as the mover to speak to this.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, we'll be supporting the adoption of the Aquatics Facility Strategy because I believe it provides something our community has been asking for. And that's a clear evidence-based roadmap for the future of aquatic services across our Shire. I'm also supporting the allocation of funds to conduct the feasibility study in the coming year for an indoor pool in the Shire. Strategies only have value if they move from paper into practice. And by funding the initial priority actions now, we're demonstrating this is not just another report that's going to sit on a shelf gathering dust somewhere, but this is a genuine commitment to improving aquatic services, just as a significant proportion of our community has asked us to. And one of the other great outcomes from this strategy is that we've got a clear sense of what it's going to cost to repair and maintain our facilities in a far more proactive manner. So I'm looking forward to the fact that we can now be proactive around how we manage all of our facilities. And there's also a really practical reason to act now. So having an adopted strategy together with demonstrated council investment significantly strengthens our position when we go to state and federal governments seeking funding support. We're doing the strategic work now so that we can do that. Really important time to be doing it. We're coming up to a state election this year and a federal election within 2 years. And the better prepared we are, the more likely we'll be able to secure pre-election promises. So for that reason, I'm very happy to put this to my fellow councillors and commend it to them.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Councillor Ryan as seconder.
Reserve my right. Thank you.
Thank you. Would any councillor wish to speak for or against?
For us. I'm going to have to speak against it. 5 minutes ago, we said the budget's under a lot of strain, and now we've still got a pool. We're going to advance a study into another pool and work out whether it's financial or it's got any financial viability. And what's the figures on that? Is it put $1 million a year into it being financially viable, or 2 million or 200,000? And you're going to say, oh, well, we'll do the study and that will tell us, but it won't tell us the figure that the rest of the Moyne Shire ratepayers have to put into that facility to keep it running. And look, I could speak all day about it. If we know we're going to get rolled over it. It's just a lot of money in that strategy right through with all the pools. And if it does pass, it's the death of all the smaller pools, because you'll have your big fancy asset in Port Fairy and the money will have to go down there to support that asset. So I just can't support this strategy.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Would any other councillor wish to speak for or against? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I also will be speaking against the motion. As probably came across in my question earlier, I do have concerns about the patronage data presented in the strategy, specifically for the Port Fairy pool. Some of the annual visitation figures appear inconsistent with information previously provided to council. So I'm reluctant to rely upon the conclusions drawn from them. We've also just experienced the closure of Belfast Aquatics after almost 20 years of operation. And for me, that experience is itself a valuable case study. So it provides real world information about patronage, operating costs, governance challenges, maintenance requirements for financial sustainability of an indoor pool, whether it's in Port Fairy or in the wider Moyne Shire. Before committing ourselves to a long-term strategic objective, I believe council should fully analyse the lessons from that experience. In my view, that is likely to provide more reliable evidence than commissioning another feasibility study before we have properly understood the one full-scale example we already have. This is not about opposing aquatic facilities. It is about ensuring that when council makes decisions involving potentially many millions of dollars and long-term operating commitments, those decisions are supported by accurate data, transparent assumptions, and rigorous assessment of financial sustainability. Our role as councillors is not simply to endorse aspirations, it is to ensure that major strategic decisions are founded on sound evidence and prudent governance, and for reasons I can't support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Would any other councillor wish to speak for or against?
Can I have clarification, please, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
On page 33 of the report, under the heading Moyne Shire Aquatic Network, the improvement heading, it says need for a new facility or reopening of Port Fairy Pool to enable year-round access for the community. So can you explain to me why that statement's in there.
Thank you. I believe Mr. Arnott may be best placed to take that question.
Thank you. Through you. Could you just point me down to the exact spot?
First sentence under the heading improvements.
Thank you. Through you. The statements that are found in that section are based upon the engagement that was undertaken, and so that's a reflection of what community provided as feedback as part of the consultation process.
Righto, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So we have passed the question component, but did you want to speak for or against it all?
I'll need some clarifications.
We did.
But I can still ask for clarifications, thank you.
While we're debating it? Okay.
Yes, well, I need to, okay, on page, it's gone to page 6, page 338, the agenda, it says the closure of the Port Fairy indoor facility has left a gap in aquatic provisions for the Shire. Yet throughout the report, it talks about Portland, Hamilton and Warrnambool being used by Shire residents, talks about MacArthur, Hawksdale and Mortlake. So I'd like to know where they got the idea that there's a gap. Considering if you look at the rules around pools and how far you should travel and not travel, there's a lot of pools we can use. So, you know, what's it meant to say? That statement. Because if you read throughout the whole report, 1 minute it says the Port Fairy pool has to be determined whether it stays or goes. Then it says, oh, it depends on what the community wants. Then it says it must have a pool. I just can't get what it's on about. It shouldn't say one way or the other whether Port Fairy needs a pool. It should be open. It should talk about what's going on in Hawksdale, MacArthur, Mortlake and Port Fairy. At some point in time, if there's a need for a feasibility, you do a feasibility. But to sort of dictate that it must be done, and in some instances, the word urgent, is a little bit disappointing. Having said that, Madam Mayor, I will be voting against it.
Thank you, Councillor Dukas. There's only one councillor left that needs to speak from against, and we'll jump to him now, Councillor Lockett.
Thank you, Deputy, through you. It's frustrating that sometimes, you know, we can have this divide because the aquatic strategy clearly points out that a feasibility study would, one, it would assess if it's financially responsible and how, if there would be an indoor pool in Moyne. But it also clearly states about the investment that's needed in the 3 outdoor pools, Hawksdale, MacArthur and Mortlake. We have clearly heard from our community. We've had an overwhelming amount of responses to the aquatic strategy. And, we see and we hear how much people want these facilities. A feasibility study, as Councillor Foster said, we don't want to have a document that just sits on the shelf and does nothing. So I think it's extremely important that we act on feasibility study. One, to see if we can afford to look at, obviously there's several, funding avenues to go down about if there's an indoor pool, but also to see how we can actively support the ones we still have. So I think it's important, and really encourage councillors to support this motion. Thank you. The alternate motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lockett. Councillor
Through you. Thank you, Chair. Today we're being asked to adopt a strategy built on genuine and extensive community engagement. The community has spoken clearly about their desires. The draft officer recommendation asked us to note and receive the aquatic strategy. In practice, if the original recommendation were to be moved, this strategy joins a queue. It means the community that gave up their time to participate in consultation and advocacy wait yet again to see whether council will act. We find ourselves in a position of readily aligning budget to individuals who come through the door with small project requests as we moved in item 2.1 today. And that's appropriate because those projects matter too. But here we have an entire community that has done everything right. They engaged, they participated, They use their voices and their bluefish. The amended motion simply asks that we meet that effort with a monetary commitment which aligns with strategy recommendations. Speaking to Councillor Ross's point, $80,000 commitment is substantially different to an $800,000 suggested commitment for road spend. Speaking to Councillor Taylor's point, we are not committing to anything besides gaining a further understanding. Our community deserve that. Certain councillors have said they are not opposed to aquatic strategies, yet every time we try to channel efforts into such facilities, said councillors constantly shut down these efforts. Yes, we have open pools within our shire that are still utilised. Yes, we have pools in neighbouring councils that are being utilised. We also have a community, we have also asked our community and they have shared their thoughts, and we cannot ignore this. $80,000 to commission a feasibility study is not a decision to build a pool. It is a decision to take this process and our community seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Foster to sum up as the mover.
Thank you, Chair. We know from recent discussions, in fact, as recently as last week in Canberra, that there are models around the country where indoor pools are cost neutral and even cost positive to some councils. We owe it to our community to at least explore this so we can make an informed decision. And I say again, we need to do this strategic work if we're serious about seeking support from other tiers of government. Excuse me, I'm confident that the recommendations in the strategy that we've been considering today are grounded in evidence, and after one of the most extensive engagement exercises I've ever seen, that it has the support of a very large proportion of our community. And that's our job. We're here to listen to our community, not just the voices we want to hear. And I'm so relieved today to be able to finally express a view on this and say to our community, I hear you and I support you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. I will now put the motion to the vote. All those for the motion? Councillors Pocket, Councillor Ryan, Councillor Foster, Councillor Murray. Those opposed, against? Councillor Dukas, Councillor Ross, Councillor Taylor. Thank you, councillors. Motion carried 4-3. We move on to item 2.7, Killarney Recreation Reserve Septic Options Summary Business Case. Director of Infrastructure, Mr. Arnott, to introduce. Thank you.
You, Deputy Mayor, through you. The Killarney Recreation Reserve and Caravan Park is serviced by ageing on-site wastewater systems that are approaching the end of their useful life. This report presents a business case that has examined a range of options for future wastewater management at the site, considering compliance, capital and operating costs, environmental risk and long-term suitability. The report sets out a preferred option and supporting rationale, and the recommendation is before councillors.
Thank you, Mr. Arnott. Councillors, any questions on this item? Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Mayor. Item 2, direct officers to progressive design. And I just noted for the public amenities block, which is about 80% of the throughput, is there any chance that they'll be looking at the other pavilion in their design?
Through the chair. At this point, the recommendation for the initial work is to look at the public facilities and also at a public dump point, and not recommending to look at the pavilion amenities at this stage. There is nothing that excludes that from occurring in future, but from the business case, the recommended outcome was to start with the public amenities.
You're only picking up 20% of the waste out of the pavilion, according to the report. So you wouldn't even consider putting that extra 20% into the system.
Through the chair, the work that has been done to date has identified not only is there issues and upgrade required to the wastewater treatment, but also should that include the pavilion, power upgrade is required. So that led to quite significant additional cost in the business case. However, it is something that we can include, even if it's a future option once we go into detailed design, if this is carried.
Any further questions, councillors?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So, Mr. Arnott, if we go down the recommendation here, we're doing a system for the 80%. 20% will disappear because there's nothing there to use. So wouldn't that 20% then go up to the other toilet block and that become 100%? Or would they go behind the bushes?
Through the chair, there is intent with the preferred or recommended option that changing the use of park would reduce the load required on one of those systems, and that would ease the need both at the public facilities and if the pavilion facilities were no longer in use by using self-contained vehicles. That would also reduce the amount of capacity required.
So if we go down this path, we do a system for the public amenity block. And in the future, if there's need to upgrade the pavilion, we would have to put in another system. So we've got two systems. When if we look at it now and we, I suppose, build for the future, wouldn't it be cheaper?
Through the chair, absolutely, we can do that as part of the detailed design. Is consider future need and bring that back to councillors for consideration.
Thank you.
Any further questions on this one, councillors? I will put this. I will ask if we have anyone that would wish to move the officer recommendation. Councillor Ross, thank
Dip my
you.
toe in and have a crack at this one. It's like a micromanager there.
And would
That's okay. You, Mayor.
the council would like to second the officer recommendation?
I'll do that.
Thank
Keep him under control.
Councillor Dukas? Yes, we'll need the oversight. Councillor Ross as the mover.
Oh, well, no, I just got a soft spot for Killarney. Used to go to their garbage 100 years ago. I think there's a lot of potential there if we really manage the project and not half do it and end up shooting ourselves in the foot. So that's why I'm on board with them. Thank you.
Councillor Ross, Councillor Dukas as second.
Thank you, Mayor, Madam Mayor. Well, I've got sort of a soft spot. I remember playing footy there with the ball going over my head and all the local Killarney people, and the after game drinks were terrific. I suppose we won't mention the romancing that went on down at the beach.
Well, you can if you like.
Keep away from that because I might name a few people. Anyway, on a serious note, Mr. Arnott assured me that when they do the investigation, they will look at the ability to put in a system that can cater for more use in the future. Well, given that assurance, I will support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Dukas. Would any councillor like to speak for or against the motion? No. Councillor Lockett.
Thank you, Deputy. Through you. Yeah, I agree with Councillor. Well, not everything Councillor Dukas said. Just
The romance.
yeah, the gar fishing, the romance part. Yeah, but this has come to count. There's a lot of officer work and the consultants' work that has gone into this. I don't almost brush past the amount of work that everyone has put into this and a lot of thinking. So I think this is a great step, and maybe there's more to come, but this is an important first step. Thank you.
Would like to speak for or against? I'll return to you, Councillor Ross, as the mover.
Just only that hopefully we've got some friends at all the government departments in Melbourne that can help us out with some payments.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Where am I? I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. 7-0. That is carried. Yes. Yep. Councillors, we'll move on to item 2.8, which is the proposed licence agreement for Mosswood Wildlife at 330 Officers Lane, Koroit. And I would just like to acknowledge that we are joined in the gallery today by some people here to observe this. Hello and welcome. I will ask Director of Infrastructure, Mr. Arnott, to introduce this report.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you. This report follows a public engagement process undertaken in line with Council's property management policy and in relation to the proposed licence with Mosswood Wildlife Incorporated for part of the old Koroit Racecourse Reserve at 330 Officers Lane. 2 submissions were received during the notification period and in support of the proposed licence, and 1 requesting council assistance with further tree removal at the site. The report seeks council approval to proceed with the licence as outlined, and the recommendation is before councillors today.
Thank you, Mr. Arnott. Any questions, councillors? Questions, Councillor Ross?
I could ask Mr. Arnott about the fire break at 15 metres, which I calculated would be about 4 acres off your 10 acres. But yeah, it's getting up there for a little plantation. They could bring in later.
Through the Deputy Mayor, we could take that one on notice and have it considered with the CFO, but that was our initial advice. Yeah.
Any further questions, councillors? I will ask, would anyone like to move the officer recommendation? This one. Thank you, Councillor Ryan. And do I have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Costa. Councillor Ryan as the mover.
Through you, Chair, thank you. I just want to emphasise the insignificant cost to council and the high community conservation value of supporting an established wildlife charity locally in our shire. And I'd just like to note that both existing tenants were consulted and raised no objections to the arrangements. So yeah, it's wonderful to see a parcel of land being used environmentally and sustainably for local wildlife and local charity use. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Foster as the second.
Thank you, Chair. Very happy to support this motion. I've been to visit Mosswood before and I think they do an extraordinary job with very little support. And other councillors will know that we've all received missives from around the world in support of Mosswood. So they have lots of fans out there. I think I know that it's becoming very hard for the volunteers to find eucalypts, especially the kind that koalas love to eat on, anywhere in our region. So this particularly treeless tract of land, which it is, and it's nice and quite close to the Mosswood operations, it seems like the perfect place. If anything, I'm a little concerned that 10 years is not long enough, but I certainly look forward to working with Mosswood and to seeing a great result from this arrangement and this partnership. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Would any councillor wish to speak for or against the officer recommendation? Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't believe it's in the right location. Saying the parcel land's okay, but I believe there's a better location on that parcel land that is closer to Mosswood. So there I'll be voting against it. I think we can do better than what's proposed.
Thank you, Councillor Dukas. Would any other councillor wish to speak for or against? No, I'll return to Councillor Ryan as the mover. Nothing further. Thank you, councillors. I'll now put the motion to a vote. All those voting for the motion. That is Councillors Lockett, Taylor, Ryan, Foster, Murray and Ross, and those voting against. Councillor Dukas, motion's carried 6-1. Thank you. We will move on to item 2.9, our Community Assistance Fund Policy and Guidelines Review. Director of Infrastructure, Mr. Arnott, to introduce this report.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. This report presents a revised Community Assistance Fund policy and guidelines for adoption, following feedback that was received throughout the 25-26 round. Proposed changes are intended to make the program clearer for applicants, more consistent in how applications are assessed, and to support fair and transparent funding decisions across the Shire. The recommendation is here. Thank you.
Mr. Arnott, any questions, councillors? We did workshop this one a couple of weeks ago, so any questions? I will have to ask, would anyone wish to move the officer recommendation? Councillor Ross, thank you. Would anyone wish to second? Councillor Foster, thank you. Councillor Ross as the mover.
No, I just note that we've got a few additions there with CFA and service RSL. So they're not all going to put in for a barbecue. We've been winded out. So happy to push it forward. Thank you.
Councillor Ryan at second.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's Councillor Foster at second.
Yeah,
Putting the wrong name down.
Thank you, that's fine. Happy to support it. I think in my time as a councillor, we've sort of tweaked this one along the way, and I think it gets a little bit better, a little bit easier, user-friendly each time. So I'm happy to support this, and note that it will probably be a moving feast over the years.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. And would any councillor wish to speak for or against the motion? No. Councillor Ross, returning to you as the mover.
Just like to see maybe some youth groups, younger groups and different groups apply. Just to mix it up a bit.
Councillors, I'll put the motion to the vote. Votes for the motion is carried 7-0. On to item 2.10, proposed memorial plaque for Jim and Carmel Madden. Director Infrastructure, Mr. Arnott, to introduce this report as well.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you. Members of the Karoi community have requested approval to install a small commemorative plaque at the barbecue area of the railway station in Karoi in honour of Jim and Carmel Madden. The request has been assessed against Council's Plaques and Memorials policy, and the report sets out the proposal, assessment and a recommended position for Council's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, can I please jump in there and move a procedural motion that this matter, the item 2.10 in today's agenda, be set aside?
Thank you. Councillor Foster, my understanding of the governance rules, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that I will now call for a seconder and there will be no debate on this item. Is that correct? That's correct. Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Councillors, those in favour, those voting for setting aside of this motion? That is Councillors Lockett, Taylor, Ryan, Foster, Murray and Ross. And those against, Councillor Dukas. Thank you, councillors. We will set aside that item. Moving to item 2.11, Environmental and Sustainability Strategy 2026 to 2036. Director Economy and Place, Ms McNamara, to introduce. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillors, the Environment and Sustainability Strategy and Action Plan has been developed through extensive consultation, including the standing up of an Environment and Sustainability Advisory Committee, which included stakeholder and community members, and also two of our councillors to assist in providing input into development of the strategy. The strategy does provide a strategic framework to guide environmental management and sustainability practices across all of the Moyne Shire. It does provide a key deliverable within the council plan, which includes to enhance our environment and also to deliver on our community vision 2040, which also supports our environment. We do have the strategy and action plan matrix in front of councillors now for endorsement, and I'll open up questions.
Thank you, Dr. Lara. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Lara, I'd like to know whether there will be an expectation that the actions in the strategy will be prioritised for future funding, or whether individual actions will continue to be assessed on their merits within the limitation of budget. For instance, there is an action to increase the bike path network, but should bike paths rank above weed control, coastal erosion, drainage, etc.? So in other words, does the strategy set a particular expectation of delivery?
Deputy Mayor, thank you, Councillor Taylor. Really good question. The strategy doesn't currently prioritise any particular actions over each other, and individual actions will be assessed on their merits and also subject to future budget and resource considerations. Even though bike paths might be important to some members of our community, they would still need to, for instance, compete on an equal footing with other projects and actions that councillors or community might identify as something coming up for consideration.
Thank you, Chair. As I mentioned earlier in relation to the aquatic strategy that it's important to move from strategy into action and to put some resourcing behind that. It's my understanding that a lot of this work will really fold into business as usual for officers and for the entire organisation. Is that the case, or is this a separate piece of work that we really need to fund in its entirety 100%?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Foster. Really good points. We have anticipated some implementation budget within next year, pending the adoption of the strategy and also budget. There are some actions that are already underway, initiatives like the tree planting or C3OP program are an example of something that's already in progress. The action plan does then pitch forward to look at the next 10 years, which big, larger projects or new initiatives would require consideration of additional budget. Business as usual, yes, there are some elements that would still be at the moment. Right.
Questions, councillors? I will ask, would anyone wish to move the officer recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Ryan, and a seconder. Councillor Foster, thank you. Councillor Ryan as mover.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. This is one that I am quite passionate about, being one of the councillors that has sat on this committee alongside Councillor Lockett. I want to acknowledge the mountain of work from council officers on this particular strategy. Council often outsource strategies, but we have incredible internal expertise who have, alongside the volunteer committee, produced a high quality strategy and action matrix. We have 248 community engagement submissions, which speaks to our community's interests in local environmental efforts. The strategy strengthens council's ability to attract external grant funding tied to environmental and sustainability criteria, which is crucial. As we've all discussed today, there is a shortage of funds in local government. I stress that endorsement today adopts a framework only, and as Ms McNamara said, a lot can fold into business as usual, and part of the strategy remains subject to funding. This strategy ties into our council plan, which we adopted at the beginning of our term and is 14 years in the making, so it's exciting to get to this point. I would like to acknowledge the Volunteer Advisory Committee's contribution, all incredibly expertised individuals, and this is a council legacy strategy, so I want to commend our officers for the amount of work they've done in bringing this all together.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Foster, a seconder.
Thank you, Chair. I think we all have our part to play in responding to the evolving environmental crisis that's unfolding around us. Some might say we're a little late to this particular party, but I'm really proud of our proactive approach now and the leadership we're providing here. And I'm sure our team will be very vigilant on the lookout for any funding opportunities that crop up along the way to help us deliver on this work. And also to thank the exemplary committee members. We had some pretty high-powered people on that committee that lent their expertise and input into this strategy. So I say thank you to them as well as to our officers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Would any councillor wish to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Ross?
Only thing I can think of, well, I'm not sure, is days of our lives, and 10 years' time we'll turn the TV back on, it's the same stuff, nothing happens, no outcomes. Can't get my shiny leaf sprayed in Portland Road, so I'll be, going to pass me forever. Okay.
Anyone else for or against? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I recognise the considerable work that's gone into preparing the strategy, and resulting document is of very high standard. My concern is not about every individual action, it's about the strategic direction that we are being asked to adopt. So before council adopts the strategy, I do believe that elected councillors should have had the opportunity to explicitly consider some fundamental governance questions. What is council's role? What outcomes are we seeking? How do we prioritise finite resources? And where do we draw the boundaries of council's responsibilities? I don't believe that we have had that discussion. Instead, we've been presented with a completed strategy that assumes answers to those questions. So for me, adopting a strategy is more than approving a document, because it establishes an ongoing direction for the organisation and influences future budgets, policies and decisions. I'm not satisfied that those broader governance questions have been adequately considered. Therefore, I won't be supporting the adoption of the strategy in its present form.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Lockett, was your hand up over there?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy, through you. Yeah, I respectfully disagree with Councillor Taylor's comments there. There's, obviously myself and Councillor Ryan would sit on that committee. It's come back to workshop a few times to be able to discuss at any point. And I agree with Councillor Ryan's comments. We have an exceptionally diverse group that have worked very well, covering kind of all different aspects of the environment for the Shire. So a really big shout out to them, but also the officers for the power of work that's gone into this strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lockett. Would anyone else like to speak for or against?
I'll speak probably against it. So the first question is to Mr. Arnott. We have an allocation for weed eradication, do we not? With Shire money and sometimes state funding. So reading through this document, there's no page has priorities. It's just everything's a priority without any funding put against it. So wouldn't that be the priority, considering we do have money for that? Fair enough. Yeah, you can take that as a sort of, I'm asking, but you can
comment, not a question.
Half comment. I would have thought, something that we get paid for, especially grant money, that would come over and above just a document that has open-ended recommendations. And if going forward, it's 10-year program, if at the next election with Shire, God forbid, votes in 4 or 5 or 6 redneck greenies, we could lose $1 million of road funding into environmental issues. Then there'd be blood on the streets, wouldn't there?
We'll take that as a statement from you, Councillor Dukas.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Happy with that?
So, although the document's got good work in it, I believe there should be some aspects of the recommendations, the various recommendations should have been highlighted and say, right, for the next year or 2 years, these we believe will be the priority ones. And then we as a council can look at them and say, well, yeah, we better put some money into this because it's getting out of hand, or that's become a real problem. We better do something like we do with the weeds. So, until we get that, if somebody can show me a document that says, let's do these 5 things in the next 5 years, I'd be happy. But as it is, it's open-ended.
Thank you, Councillor Dukas. Councillor Bryan as mover.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to reiterate what Councillor Lockett has said. We had ample time to ask multiple questions during multiple workshops. This has come to us more than half a dozen times since the beginning of our term, when the committee first came about. The draft came to us, the community consultation came to us. We had every chance and every opportunity to ask questions and to have changes made to this strategy, like we have to the aquatic strategy and to other strategies we have passed. So I'm moving this motion as it stands today because of the community consultation that is undertaken, which we have listened to. I'm passing this motion today because of the staff commitment to this strategy and action matrix, and noting that just because some councillors are voting down the motion, I don't want to take away from the hard work that our officers have done. And depending on how this vote goes today, we will hopefully be adopting this strategy, and as a council, we will be supporting this strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Councillors, I will now put the motion to a vote. All those voting for the motion have Councillors Murray, Foster, Councillor Taylor, there he is, Councillor Lockett. Can I have those voting against the motion? Councillor Ross, Dukas and Councillor Taylor. Thank you, councillors. Carried 4-3. We are moving right ahead. Item 2.12, Councillor Events, Director of Corporate and Community, Ms Robinson, back to you to introduce this one.
Thank you, councillors. This is quite a procedural report that we have each month that highlights the events that councillors will be attending over the coming month.
Thank you, Ms Robinson. Any questions on this one, councillors? No. Would anyone wish to move the officer recommendation? It's quite a procedural one. Thank you, Councillor Foster, and a seconder, Councillor Ross. Thank you. As mover, Councillor Foster, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just to say, this is only the official meetings that we have in our diaries so far, and if anybody's looking at that thinking we're not really pulling our weight, there's plenty more that happens. This is just all that we know about so far, but happy to put this forward as a procedural motion.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Councillor Ross. Nothing further. Any councillors wish to speak for or against? Returning to you as the mover. Nothing further. Can we please vote on this one? Votes for the motion. Thank you. 7-0. Motion carried. On to Mayor and Councillor activities, item 3.1. Are there any questions or commentary around those items from councillors or officers? That's a very procedural one, this one. Forward. Moving on to item 3.2, councillor notice of motion. There are none for today's meeting. Item 3.3, general matters. Do any councillors have any general matters they wish to highlight? Councillor Lockett.
Thank you, Deputy, through you. I just wanted to do a shout out to the Hawkesdale community for their big freeze event on the 21st of June. CEO Mark Everstein and myself slid, and his son, we slid down the slide, the fundraiser, and it was definitely freezing. It was a big congratulations to the committee because it was fantastic. Yeah, obviously raising a lot of money for research. And also the Pride Cup, which happened at Port Fairy at Southcombe Park. The Port Fairy Plovers versus the Warrnambool Rangers, celebrating rainbow community, LGBTQI+A community. It was a fantastic event. And also to the Winter Weekends Committee for the various events over the last few weekends in Koroit and Port Fairy. Big shout out to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lockett. Any other general business, Councillor Ross?
I've probably had a couple. And just Macarthur, shout out to the staff and all the participants for our Unfamiliar in the hall. It was very entertaining. And congratulations to all the prize winners for their hard work. And I just had another shout out to all the tradies, TAs and council staff even in the works they're doing in Koroit, High Street and Commercial Road. It's a fantastic job. It's going to look go.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. General business. Councillor Ryan.
Through you, Chair. I just want to recognise that the first week of July, so as of tomorrow, is NAIDOC Week, and NAIDOC Week is a celebration week to recognise the oldest continuing living culture on Earth, and it's a great opportunity to recognise and honour our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, both within Moyne and across the region and across Central Australia. So I would like to encourage everyone to get involved in those celebrations. Thank you.
Councillor Ryan, Councillor Dugas.
I know, I was waiting for CEO report,
You're-
got ahead of myself.
Any other general business, councillors? Moving on to urgent business. We don't have any urgent business today. To item 4 and 5, CEO meeting schedule and activities report. Item 4, CEO meeting schedule, activities report. Mr. Visser.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. Thanks for the opportunity for an update today. To start with, I'd like to mention the $205,000 for Tony Town grant funding that Moyne Shire was awarded. So communities in Croydon, Mortlake, Port Fairy, Cudgee, Yamba, Framlingham are all benefiting from the latest round. When it comes to Moyne Shire, in the last 3 years, we've now earned and won through a very competitive process $376,000 that's benefited communities right across the Shire. So to all those from a council perspective that have helped put those cases together, and there's also several community direct grants that have also been successful in Moyne. Well done. It's been a really successful few years for tiny towns in Moyne. We've done really well by comparison to a lot of other rural councils. So looking forward to another suite of projects coming live very soon. I'd like to also mention in May we had a record-breaking 31 new Australians celebrate the citizenship ceremony. So that was always a great privilege, that event, and wonderful to meet families and friends of those who are right around us in Moyne, who chose some time ago to call Moyne their new home. So congratulations to all of those folks. Right at the beginning of May was the Croydon Irish Festival, which seems like eons ago now, but there it was right at the top of the month. So huge congratulations to all the event organisers. It was a wonderful weekend all the way through to Sunday, and yeah, great place to take your family. So really enjoyed that. I'd like to next mention at Moyne Shire, we go live with an upgrade of our enterprise resource planning ERP systems tomorrow. We're upgrading to a system called Technology One, moving a lot, but not quite all of our back of house, essentially services onto that platform. What it means is we can discontinue a lot of legacy systems that are no longer supported. And at the end of the day, either risk not being supported in the future or right now because they don't talk to each other, they're slowing us down. It's a really exciting project, quite a few years in the making. Our colleagues at Warrnambool and Corangamite are going live as well. So the project's been built with 2 other shires. Much of the funding's come from the state government. It's a really unique aspect in rural local government. We 3 councils doing this. It's a big step towards the future and puts us on one of the most current technology platforms in the country in public service and local government. So it's a big change for our organisation. So to customers that interact with us and other stakeholders, suppliers, we may see a little bit of disruption. We're working very hard to minimise that on folks that work with council and rely on us. But if there is any disruption, we thank you ahead for patience and understanding, and we expect all of our services to be back to business as usual very, very soon. So we'll continue to communicate proactively about that change. Onto roads. So our road rehabilitation project is almost completed, and where a lot of our sealing works will happen in the next couple of weeks is along the Darlington Terang Road, Warrendoo Streatham Road, and the Hopkins Fall O'Sullivan Road intersection. And also we noted that some of the works on Duns Road unfortunately got damaged just as we were completing, so we need to get back out there and fix that up in the next couple of weeks. At the moment we are planning the new financial year, so we're very close to that being completed. And also to note the culvert works on the Coronel Warren Lane are scheduled to be completed in July, so looking forward to that really important project. Early years, our numbers and enrolments there are steady at 350. They are about 15 places under last year by virtue of fewer kindergarten enrolments for us this year. The enrolments for 2027 kinder has now closed. We do need to accommodate next year 20 hours of kindergarten. That'll incrementally increase over the next 10 years. Families in those services will be notified of their placements come late September once we've worked through all of that scheduling. So a really important time of year for our early years in planning for the year ahead. With our capital works, just like to mention one of the big projects for us this year, the Croydon Township Renewal Project along Commercial Road and High Street. So those works continue. We're expecting over the next couple of months for that work to come towards completion. Obviously a bit weather dependent at the moment, but certainly the feedback from businesses and others that I've spoken to has been overwhelmingly positive, and where we've seen opportunities to tweak, we've taken that feedback on board. So thank you to everybody in and around Croydon travelling through for your patience in the disruptions that are happening there. On the asset renewal front, we've got works that have occurred in places like the Croydon Senior Sits, Naringal Hall, Naranda Rec Reserve and the Port Fairy Library, and other works occurring in the Hawkesdale Pool, the Croydon Bowls Club, the Croydon WA Martin Football Rooms, King George Square Restaurant, Bait Shed, Mortlake Council Office, Southcombe Park, and the Port Fairy Basketball Stadium and amenities area. So just naming all of those just shows you kind of the breadth of work in any given month that we're doing to help maintain our assets. The Mortlake Avenue of Honour, so the commemorative plaques there are being reinstalled in June. So really important step in that project. So it's great to see those trees in place now and starting to grow. Gibb Street Bridge, we are very, very close to signing that contract and looking forward to naming our partner there very soon. So watch out for that. And lastly, I'll just finish on youth. So we had a lot of activity around the Port Fairy Winter Weekend, 220 young folks involved in some programs there, which was fantastic. And we're now in the process of convening a new Moyne and with Warrnambool Youth Advisory Board for next year. So really looking forward to meeting those new participants and getting their input on things that we do to get their feedback and input on all things that affect youth in the year ahead. So, and thank you to those that just finished up with us in the group. Real pleasure to meet them, and we really appreciate the work they've done with us. That's it for me. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Everstein. Councillors, any comments, questions?
Did the CEO mention e-speech?
No, I didn't know. Through you, Matt.
No. I thought you mentioned each. Where are we going with e-speech stage 2? Does anybody know?
As in the project, yeah.
Mr. Allen?
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. Stage 2 of the project, there's some money set aside this financial year by councillors just to do a design review and update the design. That work's nearing completion. It's not yet finished. Obviously, at the moment, it's unfunded, so that will be something for councillors to consider in future.
All right, thank you. Keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. Road signs. Now, the signs are going up in Croydon Port Fairy. Are there any signs going up out on the Shire's smaller roads, back roads?
Through you. Which types of signs? I'm sorry.
Are there any signs identifying cross where the rail trail crossing?
Apologies. Through you. Yes, there are points all along the rail trail which were identified for improved advanced warning. So at each point where the rail trail crosses a council road,
right,
we're upgrading the signage and line marking. Yes.
Are they speed restriction signs or just warning signs?
Through the chair, we worked with TAC and Department of Transport and Planning to try and promote some speed restrictions on certain high risk crossing points. At this point, no, there's not been speed reductions.
So we haven't put any up as yet?
No, I don't believe that to be the case.
So next time we have to deal with Transport Victoria, can we get hold not interview, but can we notify the councillors first? Because they seem to move in and dictate what goes on. Because I'd hate to see a speed limit sign on Badham's Lane, so to speak. Because all you have to do is, if you're conscientious policeman is just sit over the dip and you'll get them all. So, you know, I think, well, we had the same issue in Koroit. Maybe we get informed first before we take any action, because I don't have a lot of confidence in Transport Victoria.
Through Mayor, so yeah, we'll pick that up in a conversation later in the month with through council workshop for further discussion.
I'll probably come out there and say, put all these speed signs up. Get back at it. Okay.
Any more? Councillor Dukas?
Oh,
That's enough.
Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Chair. I've got a strategic planning question, if I can, Mr. Ellerstein.
Sure.
Which may be directed to
Tomorrow, potentially.
So Amendment C75, which is affectionately known as Rivers Run. There a note in the report that that this council did all its work nearly 2.5 years ago and submitted all of documentation to the Minister for Planning for approval. I believe that was under a fast track program. Maybe not, but anyhow, I'm just seeking an update if you have one, given that it is 2.5 years down the track.
Deputy Mayor, thank you, Councillor Foster. The option for going through the development facilitation process has been explored. I'm not sure if the proponents have entered into that fully. I am aware that there have been some follow-ups with the department to understand what further information they might need. But at this stage, yes, it has been that long and we are still waiting on its go-ahead.
Interesting.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions, councillors? No. That wraps up our public council meeting. Before I call for a motion to suspend our standing orders, I just wanted to thank officers, councils and community for bearing with me as I chaired today, and to thank Councillor Lockett for joining us while he's technically on leave somewhere far more glamorous than the Mortlake Chamber. So thank you for that dedication. He's working today, but he is on holiday. I will now call for a motion to suspend standing orders in order for us to consider items in the confidential agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. Deputy, for a job well done.
Thank you. I was waiting for that. Thank you, Councillor Dukas.
First time in the hot seat.
I know, and you gave me a tricky one. I'm sitting over here.
Keep you on your toes.
So Councillor Ryan, happy to move that we suspend standing orders and hear confidential. Councillor Foster to second. All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. Morning.
You did do a good job.